Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP podcast on this Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, the 25th year since the Red Wings won their first Stanley Cup in 42 years. June 7th, 1997, they defeated the Flyers 2-1 at the Joe Louis Arena on a Darren McCarty game-winning goal to end their 42-year Stanley Cup drought. So this day holds special meaning for me and Red Wing fans for 25 years ago. Anyways, guys, welcome to Live with CDP podcast, season 3, episode 48, and my 158th episode altogether. I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. Her name is Marisa Jacques. She's from Spectrum One News in Albany, New York. She's a anchor, a reporter, and she's also the play-by-play online voice of the basketball league's Albany Patroons, who open up the playoffs tonight in game 1 against the Atlantic City Gamblets. I think that's how you pronounce them. So they're opening up tonight. So we're going to talk to Marisa a little bit about her career in the business and with Spectrum News, and also being the online play-by-play announcer for the Albany Patroons of the basketball league in the States, which went against head-to-head this year with the National Basketball League of Canada as well. So just bear with me, guys, and I will bring on my guest for tonight, and I'm looking forward to speaking to her. 1 second. Good evening, Marisa. How you doing?
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, like you're next to me.
Yes, I am doing very well. How about yourself? Hey, before we get talking, I just want to thank you for having me on. Huge fan of what you're doing. You are crushing it there with sports, not only in Canada, but outside as well. I know you've been traveling a lot. I've been following you on social media. So great job. Huge fan of yours.
Thank you. I still have a ways to go, but I really appreciate the feedback. And it's nice to hear positive feedback.
Well, you are doing a great job, so you'll be getting a lot more of it, I'm sure.
Well, thank you. And I've been getting opportunities now to attend sporting events and being able to talk to coaches and players right after a game, which is a great experience. And I was in the League of Canada's championship series last week in Kitchener, and it was quite the experience to be on the court with the London Lightning celebrating their 5th NBL title in 10 years.
Yeah, it's so different. I think a lot of people don't realize what it's like to actually be down on the floor or on the field or on the ice when you're covering your teams. Yeah, you're still a fan, but it's really different to see it from that vantage point. Really unique and actually really cool. And the Lightning, man, they are a team and a half. It's been fun to watch them. I'm glad that I got to see them live.
I'm hoping next year, from the sounds of what the commissioner said, Audrey Stevenson, he didn't say for sure, but I think my gut feeling is, I can't speak for the league, but my gut feeling is they might try to do another arrangement with the basketball league next year. And what I would like to see as a fan is to have the TBL champion take on the NBL of Canada champion in a best-of-5 series.
Yeah, that would be great to see. I mean, when we had the opportunity to have London down to Albany and to watch them, the basketball was top notch. It really was maybe the best team, not really London doing what they did throughout the league. Awesome run there, winning the championship. And then our playoffs for the TBL are now underway. As you said, Albany's playing tonight, and then they're back home on Friday and Saturday, if necessary. So you never know. Maybe you could have those two champions. They've already played this year. It would be nice to see them play next year. But I think it would be cool, Chris, to see a series and to see, maybe a couple of games in Albany or wherever the champion comes from, and then a couple of games in Canada. It'd be fun to watch.
Definitely. I was going to say, I know you guys are doing best of 3, which is similar to the NBL Canada, but it's kind of different having the team with the best record having to start on the road for game one. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if I am the Patroons and, I'm the coach of the team and they don't mind it, I don't think I would love it because I would like 1-1-1, right? So start at home, then go on the road for one, and then back home for game 3 if necessary. But I think for travel and budgeting obvious reasons, it's easier to do it the way that they're doing. So starting on the road and then 2 if necessary. That way, the team only needs to travel. Each team only needs to travel once. So it saves you some money. It saves the league some money. I don't love it in terms of a tournament style, but I understand from a financial standpoint why they're doing it that way.
Okay. Now, all the series are best of 3s. How many rounds of playoffs are there in the TBL, the basketball league?
Yep. So we'll actually, we're kind of learning the breakdown of the playoffs as we go, but there'll be at least 2 more after this. So each conference will have a conference champion, and that's what Albany is fighting to be right now, champion of the Northeast Conference. And then after that, the conferences will go head to head. So 2 more rounds of playoffs after this for Albany, hopefully, or whichever team moves on.
Okay, so yeah, game 1 starts tonight at 7:00 in Atlantic City, and then I guess game 2 would be Friday night in Albany, and game 3, if necessary, will be in Albany Saturday night as well. I don't know if I've lost Marisa or not, guys. Just bear with me. Might be a technical issue. Just bear with me, guys. Hopefully she'll come back. She's just on audio right now, so it might be a Wi-Fi connection here. So bear with us. But yeah, we're just talking about the Albany Patroons of the Basketball League, and they're opening up their best of 3 series tonight against the Atlantic City Gambits. And it's a best of 3. It's first games in Atlantic City. Games 2 and 3, if necessary, or will be in Albany as well. The Albany Patroon this year, 19-3 in the regular season, and they were 3-0 against Atlantic City. So the Patroons are a pretty strong team, and I actually would love to see in the future the NBL of Canada and the Basketball League have a champion between both of the leagues as well, because I think it's great basketball. The Basketball League in the States and also the NBL of Canada as well. As you can see, I'm wearing the championship hat of the National Basketball League champions, courtesy of the Commissioner Audley Stevenson and Shannon Fennick, who arranged me to be on the court last week in Kitchener for the Lightning and Titans game 3. And there, my guest is back. There you are.
Okay, I'm back. Sometimes
yes.
the internet doesn't always work the way it's supposed to, but I am back. Thanks
No
for
worries.
waiting on me.
No worries. One thing I've learned about doing this is to ad-lib, and the show has to go on. So I knew you were going to come back. So I just was rambling on about the Albany Patroons and starting up against Atlantic City tonight.
Yeah. Yes. So it should be a good game. Albany beat Atlantic City during the regular season every time that they played them. Albany actually only has 3 losses on the season. 1 was to Syracuse. The other 2 were on the road to Lehigh Valley. All 3 of their losses this season, Chris, were on the road. So Albany's played very, very well at home. It'll be interesting to see, though, if there's any rust there for the Patroons, because they've had about 9 days off now since their last game. They sat and they watched the Syracuse and Atlantic City series to see who was going to win that. And sometimes it's tough to get right back into it. And talking with Will Brown, the head coach of Albany, he said these guys don't want to practice. They just want to play at this point. They've been practicing a lot, really their whole lives. I mean, they're professionals at this point. So I'm interested to see tonight how Albany responds, if they can knock off some of that rust pretty quick here.
I think the first quarter will be key. You don't want to, even if there's rest on their legs, you don't want to fall behind double digits. So if they can just stay even in the first quarter with Atlantic City and get their legs going by the second quarter before halftime, they should be in good shape from what I see. I've been reading up on the team.
Yeah, I mean, they are very, very good. And I can't say enough about Will Brown and his coaching staff, because it's not always easy at this level. As you know, these guys are professionals. They're getting paid to play now. Everybody wants to get their points. Everybody wants to get their playing time. It's not easy to keep guys together and focused in the way that Coach Brown has, but he has done a fantastic job. He's really had a core, I would say 7 or 8 guys since day one of training camp. They've added a lot of pieces. But it's those core guys. It's the Mosbys, it's the Mike Williams, it's the Travis Weisches, the Jared Sams of the world who have been there since day one, who've really led this team. And I'm sure, you had a chance to see the game that they played against the Lightning. A little different team now, some of the same names still there. But one of the huge factors for this Albany team, in my opinion, is the front court play. Their guards are fantastic. But in this league in particular, if you have a solid front court, then you're likely to do very well in the league. Albany has a fantastic front court. Jared Sam has been playing very well since the beginning of the season. Anthony Moe is now back. He's averaging a double-double. And you add on top of that a newer player that they brought in right at the deadline, Luther Page, big man, and gives them good time, gives the other bigs a chance to rest. And Luther has just been a beast on the board. So that's really where Albany is excelling over the rest of the teams in the league, in my opinion, because everybody has good guards and everybody has solid post players. Albany's post players are phenomenal.
And I was going to say, with the London Lightning, from their roster from 1 to 12, they actually have 2 all-star teams on that team, because the guys that are on the bench, they could easily be starters on any team in the NBL of Canada. And Doug Plum, the NBL Coach of the Year, did such a great job because he had all this talent, but he had to manage their minutes and make sure guys were on board with what they're doing. And that's what I love about this league and your league as well. It's truly a team effort.
Yeah, it really is, Chris. And I have to say, honestly, London and Albany, to me, were very similar in following London throughout the season and watching them. They probably had the best front court that Albany faced all season long. They had very solid guards as well. But as you said, 1 through 12, everybody's getting minutes. It's just about managing expectations, managing minutes, and how at this level, when guys are getting paid to play, how do you convince them that, okay, maybe you're the 7th guy in, the 8th guy in. How are you content with that? Will Brown and Coach Plum both have done a really, really good job of not allowing guys necessarily to sit back and be okay with that and content with it, but know that, okay, I have a role in this team. I'm going to keep fighting for more minutes. When I get in there, I'm going to make the most of my minutes. But if there are 2 or 3 guys who get in off the bench ahead of me, okay, I still have something that I can offer to this group. So, it's been really, really fun to watch and humbling to watch in a lot of ways, because I thought, is this going to work? Is, Coach Brown's a college coach, and how is he going to handle the guys? He has handled them exceptionally well. He could coach at the pro level, no doubt.
And one thing too, being involved with the NBL of Canada, I don't really have a favorite team. I really like every team in the league, and I've been lucky enough to get to know the coaches and some of the players. And I was just lucky to be at a great game. London won 97-96, but Kitchener-Waterloo had a chance to tie the game up on a free throw with 7/10 of a second, and unfortunately, Jabari Craig missed it, and London was able to run out the 7/10 of a second. But Kitchener-Waterloo Titans, they were playing without 4 starters, and then their MVP left the game on game 3 in London early with a hip injury. So the Titans really played London really hard for 2.5 out of the 3 games with so many guys out. And Neil Foreman, who's the coach of the Titans and a friend of mine, hell of a job he did. And I said, even though you guys didn't win the championship, you guys were winners to me. And that's the thing about the league. These guys, even if they got injuries and they're short-staffed, they suck it up and they play through adversity.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we had heard really about the league, Chris, before London came down. We were doing our research on the Canadian League and on the team, obviously. And, Coach Brown and his coaching staff were nervous. It was an exhibition game for Albany. It didn't count on their official record. But they were concerned because they knew how good that league was. And they knew that this was going to, even though it was early in the season at the time, probably going to be one of their biggest tests of the season. And really it was. And I think winning that game gave the Albany Patroons a ton of confidence moving forward throughout the rest of the season, because that Canadian League is so good and so solid. Every single roster is loaded with talent in that league.
Well, and I'm hoping next year they'll have more teams in Canada because due to the pandemic, they lost their 4 East Coast teams out in Halifax and Nova Scotia and Moncton. So I'm hoping next year they'll at least get 2 more teams back, possibly. And then there's talk about maybe even Montreal. So hopefully
Wow, that would be
Montreal.
great.
That would be great too. So what I'd like to see is them continue a partnership and maybe just have a Canadian division of the basketball league where the Canadian teams play the NBL, the TBL league teams. Not I know there's a lot of teams in your league, but just play them once in the States and once over here, and then I just think there's so much more they could do with both leagues in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we showed that it was actually a game for London, right? It counted as a regular season game for them because of the lack of teams there for that league. I think you're right. I think it would be awesome to see the two leagues either combine, come together somehow, start series with one another, even just to get our guys across the border, get them playing in Canada a little bit, get your guys down here like they were playing in the US and kind of seeing the talent level and seeing some of the different stars. I think it's a great idea.
Definitely. Hey, and you're going to be doing the games, Friday and Saturday if necessary?
Friday and Saturday if necessary. Yep. So we'll be on TBL TV. The game will be live Friday night at 7:00 and then Saturday if necessary. Part of me is hoping Saturday because I just love calling the game so much. But then the other part of me is thinking, I wouldn't mind if the Patroons swept him in too.
Yeah, because anytime you play a final game, anything can happen, like a game 7 or game 5. So as much as you like calling the games, I think, you just never know what will happen in a elimination game either.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've never called one, so this is actually the first season that I'm doing like a full season of calling anything. So somebody had mentioned to me, "Oh, it'd be awesome to call a championship game," and it never really crossed my mind, but it would. Playoff basketball and playoff sports in general, it's just kind of another level. So I'm actually really looking forward to Friday night's game.
Yeah, and the commissioner of the NBLC, oddly, after I left the court on Wednesday night in Kitchener, gave me a championship hat too. So it was really nice of Audley. He's a really good guy, really good commissioner for the league.
That's awesome. But that just shows a lot too of what you've done to promote the league and to push the league and to get them out there a little bit more. As you know, our league is TBL similar that they get coverage, but they can always use more coverage, right? There's a lot of other sporting events going on across the country in the Albany area right now. And so I know that they appreciate it. And I know that I'm sure the Canadian League appreciates everything that you've done throughout the season.
Well, they're giving me an opportunity, and the CFL here is giving me an opportunity as well, the Toronto Argonauts. So, and I'm very lucky, and I'm just any opportunities I'm given, I try to take advantage of them to gain more experience in what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, doing a little lacrosse too, right?
Yes. Oh, by the way, speaking of lacrosse, did you see some of that game Saturday night in Buffalo against Colorado?
I saw the final goal. And we actually we had the highlights on at the station on Monday, and I called the final goal. So that's what I saw. I was like, "Whoa, what a comeback! What a game!"
Yeah, and it was Nick Weiss, who's kind of a grinder, kind of a third or fourth
defenseman,
guy.
right? Kind of like
scored the winning goal with 51.7 seconds left, and the fans there went crazy like they won the well, it's not quite yet the championship, but it just shows you if Buffalo has a winning team, the fans will come out and support them.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know how much you've had the opportunity to go to Buffalo. I've had the chance to travel there quite a bit, and any sport, any team that Buffalo is the home, it's like king. And I guess I didn't realize it until I actually went there myself and was like, oh man, when we talk about, the Buffalo Bills or the Buffalo Sabres or the Bandits, anybody, like, they lead the newscast out there, and for good reason. Everybody loves their sports in Buffalo. It's kind of a unique city because it's a small big city, right? It's the second biggest city in New York, second to New York City, but it's not big when you talk about professional sports teams. So to have 2 franchises there is huge, but the fan base really gets behind its teams there. I mean, they've got obviously NHL and NFL, and I mean the support is wild. Do you have a city in Canada that's kind of similar in terms of the fans?
I guess Toronto, they love the Maple Leafs. They love the Raptors. Toronto basically is a Maple Leaf and Raptors town, and
Yeah.
they love their teams. But I would say Toronto, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we
Definitely.
had did you see the Blue Jays game last night?
No, but I think they won 8-0 over
They
Kansas
did.
City.
Yep, they were on the road. So you guys had Toronto had a kid come in the ninth inning, pitch a 1-2-3 ninth. His name is Matt Gage.
Okay.
Remember that name. Be on the lookout for him. He throws hard. So he's actually from this area of New York. He
Okay.
went to Siena College, which is in Loudonville, which is actually currently where I am right now, just down the road from Siena. So he went there, and he went to high school at Broad Perth, which is about 45 minutes outside of the Albany area. And really good high school baseball player, did huge things at Siena, pitched in the NCAA tournament for Siena and kind of put himself on the map, got drafted, and has now just made his big league debut last night with the Jays.
Okay. And in a couple weeks from now, before my 50th birthday, I'm going to go down to see the Buffalo Bisons play Friday night and Saturday night game because I'm friends with Pat Malacaro, who's a Buffalo Bisons radio guy, and he's on WGR. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping I can cover one of the games as a media member as well and be able to talk to the manager and some of the players. But AAA baseball is great, and Buffalo has a beautiful ballpark, Saline Field. It's right off the 190, and it's like 5 minutes from the Peace Bridge. So it's a great location, and it's a great ballpark.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they put some upgrades into that ballpark last season too, with Toronto actually having to play there. So yeah, that field is really, really nice.
Yes, and AAA baseball is really good. It's just a step below the major leagues, and it's really affordable. I can get a seat behind home plate for $15.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And then you try to go to an MLB game, depending on the stadium anyway, and it's like hundreds of dollars to get just an okay seat. It's kind of wild, but yeah, AAA is definitely the way to go. And again, with the Bisons, they put on a show there.
Absolutely. They do a great job. And like I said, it's about an hour and 45 minutes from my place to the bridge. And then it just depends on the border traffic. It could be piece of cake getting over, or there could be a delay. So, but I think right now with the price of gasoline here, like $8 a gallon, like we do ours in liters. So it's like $2.13 a liter, which I think in gallons, it works out to be about $8 a gallon.
Oh my gosh. You said that the other day when we were talking, and I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, we thought it was bad here. Right now, we're around $4.90 a gallon. Some places are above $5, but $8, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so it's costing me probably about, on average, about $80 a week to put gas in my car. So it's
gosh.
I know. So we finally, I think we've gotten over the pandemic, and now we're dealing with this. So
I know. I actually just spent some time at a dairy farm last week doing a story on a dairy farmer there and how the price of fuel has impacted them. And it's cost him so far 7 times more in the month of May than it did last May. And it's just, some of these businesses, I don't know how they can stay afloat.
Definitely. Are you okay for some questions now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. One thing before getting the questions, what are your thoughts on what's going on in the States with all the mass shootings? Because it's obviously been an issue. And do you think somebody will finally put a stop to this in federal government?
So it's heartbreaking. And I don't even know if I have the words for it, to be honest with you. I was at work. I think I was telling you, we cover news for Buffalo also. So I was at work the day that the shooting in Buffalo happened 3 weeks ago. And my co-anchor and I spent 5 hours, I think, on TV live, just trying to get information and talking with our reporters there on scene. And it was an emotional day. It was heartbreaking. And then to follow it up just a week or two later with the shooting in Texas. We were talking about it today in the newsroom and talking with our Washington, D.C. reporter, actually. And I said, his name's Kevin. I said, Kevin, you and I talked right after the Buffalo shooting. And I said, is anything going to change? And you told me no. Now here we are with a Texas school shooting. Is anything going to change? And he said, probably not much, but there are some conversations going on about some changes with regard to background checks and red flag laws and things like that hopefully will help change some things here in the U.S. He said it's the first time that I've seen real talk. I don't know what will happen, but it's the first time that I've seen real talk. So I don't want to be naively optimistic, but a little optimistic that maybe some changes can be made for the safety of all people. And in New York State, recently, within the last few days here, our governor signed on some enhanced gun reforms, some new gun legislation. So there are things that are now happening here in New York State. For example, to buy a semi-automatic weapon, you have to be 21 now instead of 18. We know the suspected shooters in both Buffalo and Texas were 18. Part of what our governor also signed into legislation is that people cannot buy body armor unless they are with law enforcement or first responders. So outside of that, people will no longer be able to buy body armor in our state. That was a big issue in Buffalo, as you probably know.
Yes.
There was a retired police officer there in the store who actually did get a shot off at the suspect, but because he had that body armor on, it didn't do anything. So that's another piece of the legislation. They're trying to tighten the red flag laws a little bit in New York State even more. So it's tough, Chris. I don't even know if there are any words to describe it. And I just keep coming back to tragic and heartbreaking, and hopefully these types of things will, one way or the other, come to an end.
Yeah, I love visiting your country, but the senseless mass shootings and the gun violence, I think it's at an all-time high right now, and I really hope someone puts a stop to it. Now, Canada has tough gun laws here, obviously, but unfortunately, guns are still getting into our country and in the major cities like Toronto and that as well. So I don't think there's ever 100% perfect plan, but like I said, it just seems like there's too many people nowadays having access to these weapons and that have some mental health issues as well. And that's another thing that has to be addressed too.
Yeah. You know what, Chris? And I'm hoping that the two sides can kind of come together a little bit more and say, yes, both of those things can be true. We need, not just anybody should be able to purchase some of these weapons. And yes, that's an issue. Mental health is an issue. Both things are an issue. I think I'm hoping that our government can tackle it from both sides and come together and figure it out. And I do hope that they understand too, there are legal gun owners out there, a majority of them who are responsible, and maybe they're using it to hunt, or maybe it's for protection of the home, and that is a majority of gun owners. But unfortunately, it's not all, and sometimes I hate to say it this way, but the bad apples ruin it for everybody. So my hope is that the two sides can come together and something can happen, something positive out of these two horrific tragedies to make everybody safer.
And one aspect of your job too is you have to have a strong supporting cast for yourself with your family and friends. Because I was talking to Kelly Dudzik from WGR in Buffalo, and she says, yeah, sometimes I have to take a day off and just step back from work and stuff like that, because it can get you very emotional, and that it's an emotional thing when you're covering stories like that.
It is, and it's hard not to take home. And fortunately for me, I have an amazing supportive family, and it's been nice to talk with them through some of these things. But I also have to say, Chris, and I have to give Spectrum News credit, the company that I work for, maybe as soon as the Buffalo shooting happened, they were reaching out. Management was reaching out to people to make sure that they were doing okay. Because like I said, we had people there at the store covering the scene. We had people across the state covering it. And within 2 days, they had mental health workers, therapists, talking with people in all of the newsrooms and scheduling appointments. And then they brought people actually into the Buffalo newsroom in particular. And then they did a session in all of the newsrooms, Albany, Syracuse, and Rochester. Did the same thing for Texas when that happened. So I'm fortunate in that I don't know of another news organization in the country that handled it like that. But Spectrum News was very aware of the mental health aspect of covering these events for their employees, and they got their employees help right away. I can't say enough good things.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking about this, because it's just something I wanted to talk to you about that, and the viewers don't see that the news people behind the cameras or on the screen, they have to deal with a lot of stuff as well, not just report news, but they are human beings as well. So
Yeah, and I've said that throughout our coverage. We're people first and journalists second. So
definitely. Okay, I'm just going to get to some questions. Are you still okay for time for a little bit?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Can you just tell my audience here in Ontario? I'm about a
Sure.
golf's about, I don't know, an hour from Toronto. Just a little bit about yourself, and when did you decide you wanted to pursue a career in the media industry?
Okay, so I am originally from, we call it the capital region of New York, so just outside of Albany. I'm from a city called Troy. And I would say I decided that I wanted to pursue broadcast journalism when I was in high school. I played sports through my entire life. Since I could walk, I was playing sports, and ended up playing college softball as well. So I love sports, but I knew when I was in high school that I wanted to get into broadcasting. Um, we used to have a news program called Channel One that we had to watch in the morning in high school for homeroom. I think I was probably the only high school kid who actually watched it and paid attention and really enjoyed what I was watching. And we actually had some really, at the time they were younger, but people like Anderson Cooper was one of the anchors who was on Channel One when I was watching it. Lisa Ling was another one. So these are people who went on to do huge things in the field. So I would say when I was in high school, I knew that I wanted to do it. Went to Union College in Schenectady. They did not have a program. Met a woman, fortunately, who worked at NBC Sports. She said, "Don't worry about the fact that they don't have a program. Stay at Union. It's a great school. Let me get you a job on the weekends in New York City working for NBC Sports while you're in college, and then worry about internships your senior year." So I did that. I worked for NBC Sports when I was in college. It was an awesome job. Really, I just ran around and got people whatever they want. But the people were like Ahmad Rashad and Hannah Storm. They were working the NBA desk. Michael Jordan called into the control room once. I picked up. I thought I was going to pass out. But that was great. Then I got a job, an internship locally at the NBC affiliate here in Albany. And when I was getting ready to graduate from college, I told my boss there that I was going to apply to this new news channel that they were starting up called Capital News 9. And he started laughing. And he said, "Well, as long as you don't tell anybody, I'll tell you this now. I'm leaving here to go to Capital News 9. So make sure you send me your resume when you graduate." And that was the same station, different name, but same station that I'm currently at. So I started working overnights and the weekends as an associate producer in news, kept moving through the ranks, started doing some sideline reporting in sports, and then ended up in sports, in the sports department there for 15 years, and was the sports director of our sports department for 10 years. And then more recently, within a year and a half or so, went back to news and anchor the news now, but also cover sports. And that's what led me to the Albany Patroons. Will Brown is a friend of mine. I've known him for years. I covered him all through college at UAlbany. And he called me up and said, "Hey, I have a question. Tell me what you think about this. I want you to come and do the broadcast for our web streams." And I said, "Absolutely. Anything for him." So that's how kind of I got started and have just stayed here. And I've been blessed over the years to be able to continue to move up in my own career, but still stay here at home. It was never the plan. I never thought I would be here this long, and I never thought I would be able to work at home. But here we are.
Okay, I was going to say, and I've learned one thing too from my podcast listening skills. You just answered my next couple of questions, but the one I wanted to ask you is, when you were first starting up, Marisa, in the industry, did you have any mentor or mentors or somebody that influenced your career from broadcasting? Like you mentioned at Cooper Anderson and I think Lisa Ling.
Yep. Yeah. So they were fantastic to watch when I was starting and just seeing what they were doing. But then when I got into the business a little bit, I got that internship, like I said, at Channel 13 locally, the NBC affiliate. My boss there was Chris Bruner, and he is the gentleman who took me from Channel 13 to what was then Capital News 9, which is now Spectrum News. Chris Bruner is somebody, he retired years ago, but I still talk with him frequently. He has had a huge impact on my career. He was the news director when I started at the station, and pushed me in a way where got me out of my comfort zone, but never never gave me anything easy. Nothing ever came easy. It was constantly working. And I can't tell you how many jobs I applied for at the station and didn't get before I finally got the ones that I wanted. Chris Berner was the news director. Mary Rozak was the assistant news director. Al Marlin was our general manager. Al Marlin was the one. Al and Mary Rozak gave me the first opportunity to do sports on air. So the three of them have been really huge for my career. And then my current boss is Nick Cowdrey. Nick Cowdrey's been my boss for, he's been one of my bosses for years, and he's been great as well, kind of pushing me along.
I was going to say, your first night on the job, were you a little bit nervous when you went on air the first time?
Nervous doesn't even cut it, Chris. I have to be honest with you. It's like I played sports my whole life, so there's that exciting nervous jitters, and they kind of go away once you start. And I don't know if these nerves ever really went away for years. And I think it's a good thing, because I go back and listen to myself now and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you think I'm talking fast now? I was talking a mile a minute back then, and definitely nervous, and had a lot of times that I wish I could take back. And it's awesome for me that I live here and I grew up here. But at the same time, it's kind of, looking back on it now, it's like, oh gosh, I had to go through that awkward phase in front of my family and friends and people I know here. So that was a little strange, but yeah. And I still get those jitters and the nerves when we do big live events, or when we have a big newscast or something like that, or a big sportscast. I still get nervous before we do the Patroons games.
Yeah, I can sort of relate doing, I do volunteer work with Rogers TV here, which is, they're a big cable company. They own all the Toronto teams. And when I do hockey games and live broadcasts, I'm always a little bit nervous. But once we get started, then the nerves disappear, because you're focusing on what you're trying to do. And there's nothing better than being a part of a live broadcast. And even as a camera operator, I get to see behind the scenes. And it's great, because I'm doing the TV aspect, and the podcast is the radio side of it. So I'm always learning something. And that's what I really love doing about the volunteer work, is you're always learning. And I love being a part of a live broadcast booth. And can I tell you how I started out in this whole thing? It was by accident, by chance, and it was also because of the game of basketball. There's a local basketball team here called the Golf Nighthawks. They're a rival league to the NBL of Canada. I was volunteering with them one night, and they needed a camera operator. And I'm like, I've never done broadcasting or any kind of camera work before. They said, come on up. The producers showed me what I needed to do. And after the game, they paid me $50, and they said, do you want to keep doing this? And I'm like, I liked it. It was great. So they referred me to Rogers TV as a volunteer, and I got into doing camera work. And just before the pandemic struck, I started like, hey, I really like doing this. I'm going to start my own podcast up. And that's how it started up, because of the game of basketball led me into doing my podcasting.
Oh my gosh. So you were just there, just hanging out, and they
as
needed somebody to jump in?
Yeah, I was a volunteer, and they
That's
asked me if you want to, and I started doing the camera, and they said, have you ever done this before? I'm like, no. And they said, you did a good job. They actually paid me, and then they referred me to Rogers, which led me to starting my podcast during the pandemic in March of 2020. So the game of basketball has actually changed my life.
That's wild. So sometimes you just know what's meant to be, and that's how you know.
Being in the right place at the right time. And I love, and no matter what happens, Marissa, if I make it into radio, I'm still going to keep doing my camera work, because I love doing the behind the camera work scenes as well.
So I have a question for you now.
Okay.
What were you doing before that?
I'm still at my current job right now.
Okay.
I do security, but to be honest, I'm looking for a career change, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like when I was younger, Marissa, in my 20s, I always liked broadcasting, but they didn't have this platform and the technology back then. And I don't think I was ready to be a broadcaster back then, because I was very shy, and I don't think I was prepared for it. So basically it took me almost 48 years to figure out what I want to do. And just by chance, the basketball led to doing the podcast. So
that's great though. And I give you so much credit for doing the podcast, because it's not easy, and people don't understand that. It's so much more than just flipping on your computer camera and going. Like, there's so much preparation, obviously, that goes into it. And you and I have been going back and forth for how long trying to make sure that we get this right. There's so much that goes into it that people don't realize. So I give you a ton of credit.
Thank you. And booking guests itself is a full-time job.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the first few months I did my podcast, couldn't get anyone on. And to be honest, it wasn't very good. And then all of a sudden I started getting one guest on and another. And then I started getting guys from the NHL, the NFL on. And it's just been great. It's just hard work, grinding away.
Is. But it's awesome to watch. You've been at it. I've been following you on here and then on social media. I'm like, look at him. He's got another guest and another guest. It's awesome.
Well, I'm very lucky, and like I said, I'm just trying to keep improving. And I've already had some rejection too. You brought this up too. I've already applied to a couple radio stations.
Yep.
They gave me interviews, which was positive, and unfortunately, I wasn't meant to be. So rejection is a part of it. But you know what? I'm going to keep working away at this and just keep grinding away at it, and eventually, I will get my opportunity.
Yeah, you absolutely will. And I always say, like, I've learned more from my failures in life than I ever did from anything I succeeded at. And yeah, this is a tough business, and you're understanding that. There's constantly, rejections from different jobs or different things you want to try to do. And there's a lot of no's, but once you get the yes, it's absolutely worth it.
Just like with my guests. And then now I'm getting all these opportunities to go to CFL games, basketball games. I'm going to an OHL championship game Sunday in Hamilton as a media member, thanks to the Ontario Hockey League. So and the thing is, people, anybody trying to get in a career, you can't just expect things given to you. You have to go out and you have to go out and reach out to people like guests or businesses and stuff like that. So you can't just sit back and wait for people to come to you. You have to go out and do it yourself.
Yeah, and you're doing it now, but people don't understand. Like, you have to put in the time, and especially with sports, it's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays. And you were talking earlier about volunteering and, just to get some hours under your belt. That's all things that we all have to do and still do at times. It's not easy, and this is not a business, whether it be news, sports, weather, anything. It's not a business that you can get into and say, well, I'm going to have a 9-to-5 job and it's going to be fine. No, it's not. It is hard work, long days. A lot of times you're not appreciated, and that's fine. We know what we're getting into, but it's weekends, holidays. You're going to miss birthdays. You're going to miss family gatherings. You're going to miss a lot, unfortunately. But it is a great career. It's a great field after saying all that. So.
Yeah, so I'm kind of starting later in life, but if somebody told me this, it's not how you start life or start a game, it's how you finish it.
Exactly. I agree 100%. And you know what, Chris, you probably weren't ready. Like, if this had happened to you 15 years ago, you probably wouldn't have been ready for it personally. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have made the most of it like you are now.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I was going to say, are you still okay for a few more questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anything you want to ask.
Okay. How did you come about becoming the online play-by-play announcer with the basketball league's Albany Patroons?
Good question. It was not something I ever thought would happen, but Will Brown is the head coach and the general manager over at Albany. Will was the head coach of the U Albany men's basketball team for 20 years before that. Won 5 conference championships, took them to the NCAA tournament 5 times. 4 out of the 5 times put up a fight in the tournament. Had Florida up against the ropes, had Duke up against the ropes. Some of the biggest teams, it was amazing to watch. UConn was another one. So Coach Brown had done some really, really good things over there. He ended up becoming the general manager and the head coach for the Patroons. He and I were actually talking back and forth during that time a little bit, just about, hey, congratulations, this is great. I talked to him a little bit about a couple of coaches. I was saying, oh, are you looking at this person? And randomly, he called me about maybe a month or so before the season. No, maybe a little more than that. A few months before the season started, and said, I have an idea and I want to run it by you. And he said, I want to have an all-female broadcast team for the webcast. How do you feel about that? And I was like, absolutely. First of all, because I love the challenge, and I was so excited to get the opportunity to call games because it's not something I'd done. It's not in my comfort zone. So it was good to get that opportunity to get out of my comfort zone, but also because it was for Coach Brown. And I just think the world of him. I have so much respect for he and his wife, Jamie. I have so much respect for everything that he's done for the Albany area. As soon as he asked me, for me, it was no brainer. When Coach Brown asks you to do something, you do it. So that's how I got into it. And then, once the team got there and started training camp, I went over to training camp and, always at practice and around the guys and around the team and trying to learn as much as I can about them, because this is the team that I have to cover now. So when Will called, I said, yeah, I had no hesitation, anything that he wanted.
I was going to say, and how I discovered you is I bought the NBL of Canada's online package, and one night the London Lightning were playing you guys, the Albany Patroons, and I turned into the broadcast. It was a great game, and I really enjoyed your work, and I thought it was great, and that's how I ended up that's how I connected with you, through the NBL of Canada broadcasting the games through the TBL online streaming.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I remember you reaching out that night and saying, hey, I do a podcast. Would you like to join? And I was like, absolutely. But of course, it's taken us this long because you talk about the work that goes into it to kind of connect. But yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I was really impressed by the broadcast, and like I said, I'm going to probably do that again next year with the NBL of Canada, is get their TV product, and then the thing is that allowed me to go to their Zoom shows after each game and talk to the coaches and players as well. And that night, I did get to talk to Will Brown after the game because they brought him on the NBL Canada post game call on Zoom, and I ended up speaking to him for a minute or two.
Yeah, great guy. Awesome coach. One of the best big game coaches I have ever been around. Like, it's unbelievable. He's awesome.
Okay, and this leads to my next question. What do you enjoy the most about being a play-by-play announcer? And did you have somebody, that announcer, who was a mentor or influenced you, like when you were starting out with the Patroons doing the play-by-play?
So for me, what I enjoy the most about it, honestly, is that it is a huge challenge because, yeah, I did sports for 15 years and still do sports, and I can, put together a sports cast and all that. But doing play-by-play is so different. And for me, it was way out of my comfort zone. And to be honest with you personally, it was something that I needed at the time, if that makes sense. We were just coming out of the pandemic when I kind of got asked to do this, and the pandemic was tough for so many people. Work was not normal for anybody, and we were still kind of, very cautious and careful with who was coming in the building. So for me, it was a challenge that I needed at the time, and I have had so much fun doing it. It's incredible. And as far as someone who has influenced me with regard to this, not really. I'm a huge New York Yankees fan. I don't know if I should say that. So I love listening to Michael Kay, obviously, and John Sterling and Susan Waldman on the radio. So I there's not a person I've found this, and I don't know, Chris, maybe you can weigh in on this too. I feel like there are a lot of sports fans who will say, "Oh, I can't stand that person," or "I can't stand this person," or "This person's terrible game." There aren't too many people that I don't enjoy just listening to. And to me, the biggest part of it is not becoming part of the broadcast. Like, just stay with always, don't become part of your story. And so for me, it's the broadcasters that I kind of watch, and they're pretty just calm and cool. Doug Sherman is actually somebody who calls all professional sports games. There's a lot of college basketball now, though. He's from this area. I've worked with Doug. I know Doug pretty well. I think he calls one of the best games. But yeah, there's not really one person in particular who I have, I can say was a mentor with regard to play-by-play. I did meet Mark Kestisher earlier this season at the Patroons game. He joined us on the broadcast, and he is fantastic. First of all, he's just a master at what he does. He calls NBA for ESPN on the radio. He's fantastic. but he could not have been more complimentary and more nice and just, happy to be on the show with us and do whatever. So he's somebody who I've listened to for years, and to actually get to meet him, that was pretty cool.
And what I've been learning from all my guests on here too, just be yourself, and don't try to be somebody you're not. Have your own style, and everybody has their own unique style. And that's what I love about broadcasting.
Yeah, and it's true. And, I think when we all get into it to start, we try to be something we're not. And then quickly we realize, oh, well, that's not going to work for me. And listen, God rest his soul, but there are only so many people who can be Stuart Scott and who can make that work. I'm not one of them. So I never tried to do that when I was working in sports. It wasn't my shtick. And that, like I said, there are very few people who can do it and do it really well. He was one of the best. That's not me. So yeah, 100% just be yourself.
I'm hoping this summer I'll get some training, because Rogers does play-by-play training. So I would like to give that a go as well, and see if that's my cup of tea as well.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool for you to try out. I'd love to hear it. What sport would you pick?
Right now, I'd probably do football, basketball, hockey, even lacrosse. Like I said, I think I'd pick any sport right now just to get the experience.
That would be cool to do. I wouldn't touch hockey with a 10-foot pole, and I love hockey. I'm a huge fan. I love watching it. I was with Union College when they won their national championship in 2014 here in America. It was awesome, but I would not.
Oops, I think you froze up, Marissa. You're back.
Yep, I'm back.
Yep.
Like I would say, Doc Emmerich is the best at any sport, in my opinion. I wish he didn't retire, but I would stay away from hockey.
I was going to say, and doing camera work for hockey, I think is probably the most difficult, because these guys are so fast on ice. And I think if you can do camera work for hockey games, you can do camera work for any other sport. No disrespect to the other sports. It's just because of the speed of the game. And I did the handheld camera, which was on my shoulder for the whole game. I've had to learn how to get right in there and zoom in and zoom out. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But I think hockey is probably the most difficult sport to probably broadcast and to do camera work for.
Yeah. So Chris, we did our own camera work. So I've done my own camera work for 15 years in sports. Let me ask you a question about hockey. How many times did you find yourself following a speck of dust on your camera and not the hockey puck? And you're like, oh, that's not the puck.
When I had the mask on, when we had to wear our masks up fully, the camera would fog up. And I finally had to tell the producer, I said, listen, I'll wear the mask, but I said, I have to put it below my nose because the camera was fogging up and I can't see.
You couldn't see anything. It's hard. It is hard.
So he understood that. And that is just, for a while there was kind of tricky. And I'm like, I can't do it with the mask fully up. So, But the producer, Neil White here, he's been great too, because they took in this guy who was 47, 48 years old, no broadcasting experience, and they made me feel a part of the crew right away. And they were patient with me. And the more you do something, the more you gain confidence as well.
Yeah, 100%. And credit to them for letting you do that, but credit to you for doing it, because a lot of people would say, I don't want to change careers now. But you know what? If you're happy, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Definitely. And I got out of my comfort zone, and it's been a great experience doing that.
Yeah. So, and it's not always easy.
Yep. I just got a couple quick questions and I'll let you go, Marissa, if you're still good. What's a daily normal day? I shouldn't say normal, but what's a daily day like at Spectrum News in Albany? And what's it like working in that market?
So the day starts basically, and this isn't good or healthy maybe, but as soon as I wake up, I'm on my phone. So the first thing I start to do is going through social media to see what I missed overnight, going through my own email at work, going through WebEx, which is where we communicate with all of our stations, all of our teams around the state, and seeing what I missed. Get on, read the Albany papers, read any other papers, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse. 9:15 meetings will start. So we'll have local meetings in each of our local markets to see what's going on for the day. give some ideas of, hey, I think our reporter should cover this. Maybe we should get this. Can we get a photographer over here to get this story? Because we'll use it for the 5 o'clock news. Head in, meetings really all morning. And then I'm working, depending on the day. Sometimes I'm heading out and shooting news stories. If not, I'm in the office in our newsroom working with the producers on the content that's coming in, what we're doing with it, how we're showcasing it, who we've got coming up on the 5 o'clock show. And then usually around 3:30, we kind of get into the studio and start on the 5 o'clock show. And it ends at 7, but it doesn't end. News never ends. So the last thing I do before I go to sleep is usually check my phone to see what's going on. And it's the first thing I do in the morning.
I was going to say, and one thing I've learned from having guests on here, every day is different in the news industry, at TV, radio. There's always something different going on each day. So that's what I like about this industry too, is there's always something new going on and something new to learn.
Yeah, and I never wanted to. I always said I don't want to have a profession where I just sit at a desk all day and am on my computer. And that's great for some people, but for me, it wasn't what I wanted. And it definitely isn't what I got. It's something different every day, like you said.
And that's exactly what I want to do with this, get into radio media and stuff like that. And I've even taken up blogging. I'm not the greatest writer, but now I've decided every event I attend now as a media member, I'm going to write a story and post it online. And hopefully the more I do it, the more my writing skills will improve.
Yeah, and people love that. People love to. I've learned that. We have our own website, and I've learned that pretty quickly that people love to just read stories and read about people's day, and read about that firsthand experience at some sort of event. So good for you.
Thank you. And I just got 2 quick questions for you, and that's it. This one I wanted to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot on here. What has been your most memorable story so far, an interview you've covered, and favorite athlete you've interviewed so far?
Oof. That's a tough one. I think so. My most memorable stories, honestly, I've stayed in contact with some of the people that I've done stories on through the years. We've done stories on cancer survivors. We've done stories on athletes who've sadly lost their battle with cancer. Or they've had a family member that's lost their battle with an illness. But for me, some of the most memorable stories are the ones that have to do with family. So I still tell this story to this day. One of this kind of moment for me, or this memory that I have when I realized, like, oh wow, I love doing this, and this is what I'm doing is right, was when I went to the Carrier Dome for the first time. Our high school state football championship games are at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. And I'd never been. I've seen it, obviously, and heard so much about it, but I have never been. So the station was broadcasting the games live, and I was the sideline reporter for the game. And it was 2005. It was the Class A championship game. Amsterdam, which is our local team, was playing. And I asked my dad if he wanted to go with me because, my dad played high school football. He was really, really good. He's in the Hall of Fame at his high school. And he loved sports, and he taught me pretty much everything I know about sports. So I said, do you want to come? He said, sure. The first time that I saw the Carrier Dome was walking in on the ground floor with my dad, and like just that iconic ceiling and being in the dome and just experiencing that with him, for me, is something I will never forget. And our team won the state championship. It was the first time that I'd covered a state championship. So it was really fun. So that's one of my top memories. I think another one is probably Union College, where I went, winning the national hockey championship in 2014. I had a chance to cover them throughout that entire season, and it was unbelievable. Union, when I was there, and I don't say this with any disrespect, they weren't very good. They weren't very competitive. So to watch them go from not being very good when I was there to, just 10 years later winning a national championship was just amazing and unbelievable for me. So there's some of the stories that kind of will stick with me, I think, forever. And some amazing people I've met along the way too.
I was reading up a couple of days ago. You did do an interview with a former pro wrestler, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man.
Yes, I did. And he was awesome. I actually, a couple summers ago, I think it was, I interviewed him. He was at a tournament here in our area, just kind of promoting the brand and promoting wrestling. It wasn't WWE, but it was something else. And oh my gosh, he was great. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was there. He was awesome. Hacksaw Duggan is from this area. He's from Glens Falls, which is not too far from Albany. But Ted DiBiase was really, really cool. And he told me some really cool stories too. One that I'll just share with you really quick was when he was wrestling for the WWF. His thing obviously was that he was loaded, and so McMahon told him, "I want you to go to restaurants, and I want you to just stand up, say who you are, and pay for everybody's meal in the restaurant." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, like it's part of promotion. It's part of doing what we do. It's part of convincing people that this is real. But that's what I want you to do." So McMahon would give him like hundreds of dollars, and he would just go to the restaurant wherever they were, and he'd stand up in the middle of his meal and let everybody know he was there, who he was, and that he was paying for everybody's meal. And he said, and there was never any question about it. I would just tell him, "Hey, I ran out of money. Here's where I was." And he would hand me like another few $1,000s the next day to go and do the same thing. So I thought that was really cool.
Did not know that. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. It was really a really cool story from the $1 Million Man.
That was the golden era of wrestling when Ted DiBiase was there with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. That was the golden era. To me, it's not the same. To me, it's not the same as it was back then. These guys had real character back then. It was just a different time back then for that sport, for that industry.
Yeah, and these guys now today, they're awesome. They're fantastic athletes as well. But yeah, back then it was different. It was like, there were real bad guys and there were real good guys, and it was fun. My brothers watched wrestling, so I watched a little bit of wrestling too. But to meet him was very cool.
And he's also, I think, a minister now too. I think
he may be. Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
Definitely. Okay, and I'm going to wrap it up. I've kept you over 40 minutes, so I apologize. I love to talk and stuff.
It's been my pleasure to talk with you. I'm so grateful that you even asked me to come on the podcast. You're doing huge things, so I'm just honored to be part of it.
Well, thank you. Hey, podcast is only as good as its guests, and I've been very fortunate to have 150 guests on in the last 2+ years.
Keep going, Chris. Keep going.
Thank you. My last question for you is any advice for those, not just myself, looking to pursue a career in media, either radio or television or journalism? And where can my audience find you on social media? And if they want to tune into the games on Friday night with the Albany Patroons?
Yep. Okay, so Friday night will be TBL TV. You can find the broadcast live there. On social media, it's Marisa Jacques TV for both Instagram and Twitter. Trying to get better at Instagram. I'm not that great at it. Better at Twitter, but I'm trying to get there with Instagram. So it's I can see you have this scrolling on the bottom. So that at Marisa Jacques TV is for both of them. And then career advice. Oh man. A couple of things. If you're really, you have to be passionate about this business if you want to get into it, because you're not going to get rich by doing this. If you think that you're going to get rich, or you just want to be on TV, or you just want to have your name in the newspaper as the article writer, don't do it, because it's too much. It's something that you have to love. You have to eat, sleep, and breathe this career to be super successful at it. And like I said before, you're going to give up a lot. So you're going to give up your nights. You're going to give up your weekends. You're going to give up a lot of family time, a lot of friend time, and things that you want to do outside, because unfortunately, you have to do that if you want to get ahead here. Anytime anybody asks you to do something, yes, yeah, what can I do? How can I help? What can I, come along on? Be prepared to, as you said, volunteer. Be prepared to come in on your days off in this business and learn something new. Go out with a reporter, go out with a photographer, sit with a producer. Always prepare to work for free, I guess, in that regard. And hard work will get you everywhere. Make sure if you're a young person applying for a job, make sure you know the job that you're applying for. Make sure you know things about that company. that is impressive when people apply for jobs and they'll talk to me and they say, oh, I know that, Spectrum News did this, or I saw you guys were covering this. That's super, super impressive. Be prepared to work hard, work long days. Don't complain.
And I recently just have 2 part-time jobs through my contacts. It's sometimes not what you know, it's who you know. And I've got myself
100%.
a part-time job as a camera operator up in a racetrack up in a northern part of Ontario. I can't do it all the time, but it's something I'm going to do. And as of July 2nd, a local football team here has hired me as their public address announcer for their home games. And I've never done public address announcing before, but my friend who's watched me on my podcast was impressed with my work, and he talked to the president of the team, and they're gonna have me do it July 2nd. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I'm gonna give it a good shot.
Nervous is good. That's great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be.
Well, like I said, and I've been lucky. I've made a lot of contacts through here, but also I've made a lot of friendships, including yourself as well. And I really appreciate, and like I said, so I just got to keep grinding away, keep working hard, and keep getting. I'm going to be working on my next podcast for Thursday night after I'm done with you. And like I said, I love doing this. And Marisa, I was going to say, thank you so much for coming on live with CDP podcast, episode 48 in season 3. And I'd love to have you back as a guest after the basketball season's over and maybe talk to you about the Patroons winning the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, hey, anytime. I would love to come back. It was so much fun. Thank you for asking me. And hopefully we're coming back with a ring. We'll see, though.
Okay, and I will download this to audio after, and I will send you a link to the audio version of the podcast as well. So I'm all over the internet, and I'm on TikTok as well, live with CDP as well. Oops, I think you froze up. I was just saying, you guys can check me out on TikTok at Live with CDP. Anyways, Marisa, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to come back. But I want to say thank you so much for coming on live with CDP podcast, season 3, 38 episodes, actually 48 season 3, episode 48. This is my 158th podcast since March 2020 as well. So it looks like Marissa's froze up. So, but I really appreciate her coming on and talking about her career in the news industry with Spectrum One and how she became the play-by-play announcer for the Albany Patroons as well. And they're going to be opening up their playoff series this weekend. Actually, tonight. They're opening up game 1 tonight in Atlantic City. It's a best of 3 against the Atlantic City Gambits. And then game 2 and 3 will be in Albany on Friday and Saturday. And you guys can check those games out on the TBL network as well. And that's their website, thebasketballleague.net. And I'm going to hopefully watch the game Friday night online with Albany and Atlantic City as well. And you can check out the other website, the Albany Patroons Basketball.com as well. And they had a 19-3 season and were 3-0 against Atlantic City in the regular season as well. And you can also check out SpectrumLocalNews.com/New York State/Capital -region news as well. And also you can check out Marisa at Marisa Jacques TV on Twitter and Instagram as well. So I want to say thank you again for Marisa coming on. And before we go, guys, I'm just going to show you just a little bit of her work. This is an interview with a baseball coach that she did. And I just want to play a little 2-minute clip of Marisa's work as a sideline reporter.
Entering his 45th season here with the Siena Saints, Tony Rossi, the men's baseball coach. Coach Rossi, thank you for joining us. You guys are coming off a successful season. You get to the MAC Championship Series, and more is expected of this group again. Do you like that pressure, and what do you guys have coming back?
Well, I mean, we got a good ball club. We have a lot of experienced kids, some new kids too that should complement them. And coming off the last year, we fell a little bit short. A lot of those guys are back. I mean, we got 7 starters back, so I think they know what to do in a tournament situation, and they'd like to get back there. Hopefully win.
You guys look like you're going to have a nice pitching staff again this season. You got a couple of young guys, but then you've got Matt Gage, who's from our area, who had a great season last year, and we're expecting big things from him. I know he was in the Cape League this summer, pitching well, and he did really well there.
Yeah, without a doubt, Matt's our horse, and we've got some guys behind him. We have an experienced staff, but just like anything else, got to stay healthy, and guys got to throw strikes. But man, Matt is a guy that should carry us. We'll see what happens in a couple weeks.
Coach, you're getting set for your 45th season here. If I told you 45 years ago you'd still be here running this program and doing it so successfully, would you believe me?
It's the game of baseball, and I always wanted to coach in college. I probably, without a doubt, I'd stay a length of time. 45 is a long time, but it's not far fetched. I like it, and I'm going to continue.
Coach Tony Rossi, thank you so much. I hope for another 20. Can you give us another 20, you think?
We'll see.
Tony Rossi, the baseball coach, the Siena Saints looking to have another successful season coming up this spring. Robert, let's send it back to you.
Anyways, that clip was courtesy of the Siena Saints, and I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of Marisa's work as a sideline reporter as well. And check her out, please, at Spectrum News 1 in Albany, and also her Twitter page as well. Guys, just wanted to let you know the next Live with CDP podcast is going to be Thursday, June 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern. My guest is going to be Mike Mitchell. He's a pro football writer, contributor for the NFL, CFL, XFL when they start up in 2023, and the USFL. And he's also a writer with Fansided and the Jet Press. And Mike's going to come on and talk a little bit about the Toronto Argonauts, the CFL, and also some NFL as well, and maybe a little USFL as well, which, to be honest, I haven't been following a lot as well. So hopefully you guys can tune in for season 3, episode 49 with Mike Mitchell this Thursday night at 6 o'clock here on Live with CDP podcast. And as always, guys, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is downloaded to Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and LinkedIn. And also, guys, you can check me out on TikTok at Live with CDP. That's at Live with CDP on TikTok. And let's see, some other news, guys, just let you guys know. Let's see. The Buffalo Bandits defeated Colorado on Saturday night at the KeyBank Center, 15-14 Saturday night. Winning goal by Nick Weiss with 51.7 seconds left at the KeyBank Center before over 15,000 Bandit fans. The next game will be this Saturday, June 11th at 9 o'clock Eastern on ESPN Plus and TSN at Colorado. And Pat Gregor, John Abbott, and Ashley Docking will be doing that game for TSN as well. And we'll see if the Bandits can clinch their first National Lacrosse League Championship title since 2008, or if Colorado will force it to a third game on Saturday, June 18th in Buffalo. So we'll see what happens there. And also, guys, we got NHL playoffs tonight, Eastern Conference Championship. Rangers, Tampa Bay at 8 o'clock. Rangers lead the East Finals 2-1. See if Tampa can even up the series at 2-2 tonight in Tampa Bay. And also last night, the Colorado Avalanche defeated the Edmonton Oilers 6-5 in overtime. Colorado sweeps Edmonton. Colorado's going back to the Stanley Cup for the third time in their history. And they went 96-1 in 2001. They believe they won. So this is their first Stanley Cup appearance in 21 years. And congratulations to the Colorado Avalanche. They will have now just over a week off, and they will meet the winner of the Rangers Tampa Bay series. So we'll see what happens there. But Colorado has a really good chance of winning their first Stanley Cup since 2001 this year. No matter who wins, I think Colorado's the strongest team. So we'll see what happens as well. And also, guys, check out Are You Serious Tap and Grill on 130 Silver Creek Parkway, North in Guelph. 519-766 0230 is the phone number. It's the official pub of Bill's Mafia in Guelph, and they also have really good wings there, and they have good antijitos, and they have a good beer selection, and it's good food, good service. And Are You Serious is celebrating their 30th year this year as a restaurant. They opened up in 1992, way back when it was at Willow West Mall, and they're now just in Silver Creek Parkway in where the old Robin's Donuts used to be. So check them out. They have really good food there, and the service is quite good there as well. And you can check out their website at areyouserious.biz, biz/. And let's just read some comments. Oh, there's Dave. Hey, Dave. How you doing? Thank you for watching my podcast tonight. And I've got one Thursday night at 6 o'clock with Mike Mitchell, who's a pro football writer. So we're going to talk some CFL, NFL, XFL, and some USFL as well. So thank you so much for watching. I gave RU Series another pub shout out. So appreciate you watching and stuff like that. And I just want to say thank you to everybody watching this live on my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe notification if you already haven't. And also thank you to everybody watching live on Facebook Live and also on Twitter at Chris D. Pame if you wish to follow me there. And thanks to everybody for listening to me on audio, Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor FM, etc. So I think that's pretty well it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. But again, the next Live with CDP podcast, season 3, episode 49, this Thursday, June 9th, 6 p.m. Mike Mitchell, pro football writer, contributor for the NFL, CFL, XFL, USFL, and Fansided and Jet Press will be on to talk some football with me. And we're going to talk a little about the 2020 Toronto Argonauts or the 2022 Toronto Argonauts and see if he thinks it could be a Grey Cup contender with all their changes this year, with adding Brandon B. Banks from the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Andrew Harris from the back-to-back Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers as well. And I want to say thank you again to Chris Bellin. I want to say thank you to Chris and Mike Hogan from the Toronto Argonauts for setting me up with a media pass this past Friday night at Alumni Stadium at the University of Guelph as well. And that's about it, guys. I just want to say again, thank you to my guest, Marisa Jacques, for coming on. And I'm wishing her and the Patroons all the best in the playoffs, and hopefully they'll get a championship as well. So check out the Basketball League on their website and their social media platforms as well. Let's see, one more comment. Shout out was super nice. Thanks. You're welcome, Dave. And hopefully we'll see you. I'm not sure about this weekend, but hopefully we'll see you in the next week or two, Dave. And again, really enjoy going to RU Series. Great food and all that. Good service. Please check it out, guys. I guess that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoy the hockey game tonight between the Rangers and Lightning. And look forward to speaking to Mike Mitchell on Thursday night at 6 o'clock for another edition of Live with CDP podcast. Have a great night, guys. And again, thank you for watching and listening to Live with CDP podcast. Take care, guys.